Hello and welcome to episode 487 of Fergo on the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And joining me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find me on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, look, I'm doing all right. I'm coping with the dramas at the club.
What club would that be? What club?
The club. It's fitting. Because what we were chatting about prior to this episode starting was, nuclear wastelands and how nothing exists after a bomb gets dropped there.
Yeah.
If a bomb got dropped in Sydney, for example, one thing would exist, and that is the West Tigers continually still being shit.
They're bored.
Yeah. They would outlive the cockroaches.
Yeah. The cockroaches would be like, these fucking low cunts.
Yeah, we don't want anything to do with you, mob. Yeah. We're going to go and kill ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what the cockroaches are going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not fucking around here. We're getting right into it. But there's been some drama at the West Tigers.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Of course there is. Why not?
Where do we start? There's so much of it. Like, where do you start?
Let's go with, I don't know. I'm thinking that there's a bit of a thing going on at the moment where it feels like Tim Sheens is trying to paint himself into the corner as being a good guy, which I'll never buy.
Nah, it's bullshit.
So he's pissed off that the Potato and Chairman Lee have gone and signed some fucking idiot from Manly who doesn't know what he's doing. He was so bad at it that Manly got rid of him. Scott Fulton. To be their recruitment guy. And Sheen's a bit pissed off because no one spoke to him about it, nor did they speak to Benji Marshall.
Which is kind of hilarious. Because
it's hilarious. And like I agree, they should know because, they've got to work hand in hand. That makes complete sense. But at the same time, it's also completely on brand for the West Tigers that there's absolutely no connection between any departments whatsoever when it comes to what happens on the field.
Yeah. 100%.
Even on the field, there's no connection between, what the outside backs do with the middle forwards. There's nothing there. There's no connection anywhere. There's no connection between what David Nofaluma's legs do and what his brain does and what his ears have been told to do. There's no connection there either. It's just, there's none. So, it's probably very wrong that Sheens was notified about that, but it's completely on brand.
Yeah.
So, have another cry, Tim. There's another thing I saw, which was one of the higher ups in the West Tigers board a few months ago resigned.
Yes.
And it's emerged recently that Robbie Farah is interested in taking on the gig.
At this point, why not?
I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, like, could he be any worse?
You know what? The good thing about it is Robbie Farah hates the mainstream media so much that it would stop the links to the media. So that's something.
Yeah. I just think it's weird that like a couple of months ago he wanted to be an assistant coach and now he doesn't. He wants to
Oh no, he still wants to do that.
Oh, he still wants to do that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. He just wants to have all his eggs in all the baskets.
Right. He just wants to do everything.
That's right. Put a bit over here, bit over there, bit over there.
Why not? Fuck it.
He couldn't do any worse than all the people currently doing it.
Yeah, true.
He'd do it comfortably, I think.
You turn up at the gates, he's a security guard as well. He says, I knew you'd turn up. Hang on, I got to let you in, and then I got to go and clean the toilets because I'm the cleaner.
He's got this big wad of keys that just hangs around his pocket. He just has to pick them up, and he's going through them. Kind of reminds me of Johnny Depp's character, Willy Wonka. And they've got one kid going down a hole. She's been sucked down into some hole that all the squirrels are throwing all the bad nuts in. And they've got this little gate got to open up, and he pulls out these keys, just casually going through them all while the kid's father is sitting there watching in fear. He's going, not that one, not that one. Yeah, that'd be Robbie Farah.
See, I've never seen the new Willy Wonka with Johnny Depp.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I saw it when I was up in Sydney recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're up in Sydney?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, shit. Did you do anything?
ate some food.
Nice. Have a nice chicken schnitzel.
It was pretty fucking good.
Pretty good. Anything good on the TV while you're having it?
While we're there. There was a bloke on there who was cosplaying as a mortician. Which is apt, given he's been presiding over a funeral for the last 8 years.
He was cosplaying as somebody that looked like he should have been walking down the road in about 1955 buying fruit.
In Sicily.
Yeah.
I need some tomatoes for my nonna.
Oh, shit. I love people that have funny hats. By the way, he was doing that. We worked it out. It was like, what was it, 7:30 or something that night?
Yeah,
he's wearing a hat indoors.
Yeah, in front of the only merch that's available there. When we figured it out, it had to be Harry Triguboff's bloody, one of his offices somewhere, because that's the only bloke who'd have that much merch.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the fascinating thing apparently that came out of that interview, because obviously we didn't listen to it, we were just quite amazed at the garb he was getting around in.
Yeah.
Not so much he was on TV or in front of a microphone. That's kind of what he does. I think he probably brought his own microphone. He's on air that often. But apparently one of the things he said was this has been the hardest time of his tenure at the West Tigers.
Has it though?
And
is that part of the course?
Well, the first thing I thought was, you fucking made this happen, you fucking wank. This is you. You did this.
Oh shit! It's like smashing a car, right? and then you drive, it's got 3 wheels on it, and you try and like scrape what's left of it over to the side of the road, and you're like, this fucking thing's not driving very well. Hey, something's wrong with it. Like, you smashed it, you idiot.
At the moment, mate, Potato and Chairman Lee, trying to get them to be useful and intelligent and successful. It's kind of like picking up a turd from the clean end.
Oh shit!
It just can't be done.
Yeah,
and that's what they've got at the moment. That's where they're at. So yeah, apparently there was then talk that because of the whole Fulton drama, that Potato was going to have a meeting of the minds, get everyone together, get rid of all the tension in the air, have Benji and Fulton, get them to come together. And the best way to do this was to have separate meetings with them.
Is that what they did?
That's what they did.
Well, I'm sure that sorted everything out.
Again, no connection. We can't have anybody know that anybody else exists here.
Imagine like they're training at Concord, right? And the club offices are at Concord. So you would think that when everyone goes to work, they're going to Concord. And it's like, okay, he's in this room next to me, recruiting whoever. I don't know who he's recruiting. All I know is this shit. And then out there somewhere.
Well, he's on the phone to someone in England in second division over there saying, have you got any halfbacks off contract?
He's on a very important call to Batley, seeing who they've got to release. And out there on the field is Benji. He's the future head coach. And he's out there with Tim Sheens, who's the current head of football or whatever he calls himself. I don't know what he calls himself.
I think the whatever is very close to the truth. He's the head of whatever.
Yeah. I need to organise a meeting with these guys that are within 5 minutes of me. And I can't fucking do that.
No, it's too hard, so let's just do one at a time.
Yeah, I'm not capable of bringing these two people in the room together.
If there was a communication device that you could get where you could send out messages to people at the same time and coordinate a chance to have a meeting. But we're not in that time. So what apparently happened is the pigeon that was sent to Fulton got there first. Yeah. But that pigeon forgot to take the same message across to Benji. So they had to send out a second pigeon. And that takes time because they only had one pigeon. So, they had to go find another pigeon because the first one was tired. I think it was Phil Gould's pigeon. Anyway, that's straying down another path. So, yeah, that was some of the drama going on there. man, this club is fucked.
It's so fucked. It's so completely fucked.
It's so insanely clear that Chairman Lee and Potato have been there far too long and have been completely, 100%, utterly useless. They've taken the club from being mediocre to the worst in the league. And look, don't take it from me. The stats prove it themselves. I checked last night. The last 50 NRL games for every club, the West Tigers have the worst win record, the worst attack, and the worst defence.
It's terrible.
That's the last 50 games. Do you know how many games I have to go back to find out when the West Tigers were not the worst in the competition for win percentage?
How many?
80 games.
and who did they take over from, the Bulldogs?
That put them second last, one win ahead of the Bulldogs.
Wow.
And it was still a absolutely atrocious record.
That's terrible. And keep in mind, this has happened after the supposed revolution that Tim Sheen said he was going to do when he came to the club, and he decided that he was going to fix things and fix the pathways and fix recruitment, and then he was going to put the best guy to coach the club in charge, which was him. And then when he decides that it's time to leave, he was going to pick the next coach as well, which was Benji Marshall. And it's been a fucking abject failure. Or every single part of that has been an abject failure.
And who called it from day one?
We did.
From fucking day one. This was never going to work. It's never going to work. The club was not even on the trajectory to go in this direction, this fast and this bad, with Maguire there. I don't know, I've said it before. Maguire was bloody absolutely hamstrung by all those contracts that were bloody dished out to heaps of people that didn't deserve them over long periods of time.
Yeah.
His last season there was his first season where he didn't have those around his neck. So he's trying to figure out what squad he had to build with and cut off any other deadwood. And then, boom, this year would have been his first year where he had, right, I've got a ton of money. I'm going to start buying all the players I need. And nope, get rid of him. And what's this mob done? They brought John Bateman back.
Who's fucking terrible. Can we please stop pretending John Bateman's good? You're a second rower. First of all, you're an undersized second rower. You're kicking the ball close to the line on the third tackle for yourself. That's not reserve grade shit. That's like park football shit, and your mates still look at you and go, "What the fuck are you doing, you idiot?" And why are you still so pasty? You've been here for 6 months.
You know what gets me?
Get outside for a bit, you fucking Casper-looking motherfucker.
I fully agree. The thing that gets me is we had Luke Garner on less money and he's younger and better. Let him go to Penrith.
Yeah.
We had Kelma Tuolangi, much younger, still better. We let him go to Manly. Why?
And then, who was it that we were... Because me and Andrew met... What day was it last week? Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, Monday. And so we're watching NRL 360, and they just say that the sound's not on. And it's so we're and I was facing the screen, and you were kind of facing away from it. And so every so often I'd look up, and this idiot with his hat is in the background, and you'd see the little ticker below him. And it was Tigers target Brodie Croft. And who was the other dude? Because you and me were laughing about it.
Aiden Caesar.
And they're showing footage. They're showing footage of Aiden Caesar playing for the Titans, which was 5 fucking years ago. Since then, he went to the Raiders. He's been playing for the fucking Huddersfield Giants.
Well, hang on. Before you go any further, the highlights I showed of him playing for Canberra were all from the one game.
Yeah.
It wasn't over a series. It wasn't 15 different games and a few highlights. One game. That's all it was. And nothing from England.
Nothing. Not a damn thing. And then we were how old is he? And I think we worked out he's 33 or something like that.
Yeah, he's not a young fella.
Yeah, and then the next thing that flicks up is the Tigers haven't actually released Luke Brooks to go to Manly, so they're going to talk to him about it, and we're fucking laughing. we're laughing our asses off because it's like he's gone. He's already gone. He's not going to talk to you. He's going. He's gone. Like
it's kind of like they've looked out there. They check out the market. There's a bunch of halfbacks that they do want, but none of them want to go to the club because it's shit.
Yeah.
And so they found the only ones available are a couple of blokes, playing a bit of park footy for a bit of a laugh over in England.
Yeah.
That's about it at the moment. They've gone, maybe we should hang on to Brooks. Nope, you fucked that one too.
He's gone. He's
gone.
But that's their big brain plan. Like, how about if we don't get Caesar or Brodie Croft, how about we fucking keep this guy who's been fucking bog average for 10 years for us and has taken us nowhere? That's the big fucking plan.
The thing that's really annoying is there's a bloke, quite a handy halfback. You might have heard of him. He's trying to find a new club at the moment called Ben Hunt that the Tigers have not even bothered to fucking contact. They haven't even sent a pigeon his way.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Just fuck, man.
And all of this was happening like it's like I felt bad in a way because I'm sitting there, we're having a nice meal and stuff, and we're all chatting away and stuff. And I'm looking up and I'm like, Brodie Croft, Aiden Caesar, they want to keep Brooks as well. I felt just like there was no good news to say.
No, it's like, how can we out Manly? I know, let's get the Manly recruitment guy who they don't want anymore and get him to come in and make all the decisions. Fuck me, he's atrocious.
Oh, it was so funny. It was so bad. And it's all happening at the same time. And then, as you say, like it comes out, Robbie Farah wants to move into management, and it's like I don't mind at this point. Like we said, can't do any worse. And like I think I said to you, it feels like we need an expansion club in the MacArthur region because the West Tigers aren't doing that.
No, well, they're not doing anything actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's even talk now that there's a bunch of West Tigers members have created a petition to go around to have the board either sacked or have their positions reviewed. Mm-hmm. They'll probably agree to get them reviewed, and what'll happen is Pascoe will review Chairman Lee, and Chairman Lee will review Pascoe, and they'll go, well, you're pretty good. Yeah. I didn't come across anybody else in my reviews who could do a better job than you, so I can't see any reason why we get rid of you. And they go, oh mate, I kind of feel the same. You've been pretty good. You're good on the media. We need some good PR people, and you're good there. The media loves you, so we might just keep you on. Done. Review finished.
Sorted. Yeah. It's crazy, and the sad thing about it is that when results can't change the club. And like failure and embarrassment. And it's not just embarrassment on the football field, embarrassing things happening off the field, the club becoming a joke and a punchline, and that still doesn't work. Like nothing's going to work. Nothing is going to change it. These people need to get bored and move on to something else, At least in the past when you had chairmen that were more well known for doing morning teas, they had an eye on ruining something else, Yeah. It feels like these fuckers are still focused on ruining the West Tigers. They need to be given something else, like a fucking A-League club to ruin, or
AFL team.
An AFL team, netball, something,
No, the netball doesn't need. You can go to rugby union.
How crap is netball? Netball's not a sport.
Better than AFL.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Tougher. Makes more sense.
Much tougher. Yeah.
Much more logical. Has rules that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not gonna shit on with netball.
Way less ice.
Way less.
Way less.
Yes.
Way more diverse.
Vastly more diverse.
98% blonde girls play netball, but way more diverse than AFL.
Yep. Can't agree with that. Now, there's an article at the moment. I need to raise this because it's a dumb topic going on in the moment, but the heading that the dickheads over at Yahoo Sports have written up for this is worded so badly.
Okay.
It says, NRL fans in frenzy over James Tedesco act amid ugly wife furor.
What? What is this about? First of all, you know how you know my thoughts on rugby league players' wives.
Yes.
Like I just don't give a fuck. No one gives a fuck.
Oh, that is the worst headline. Okay.
Hit me with it though. I'm ready.
The actual story is, was it last week before? Trent Robinson said to Tedesco, I'm resting you this week. I need you to go and get some rest, have a bit of R&R. You've had a pretty tough Origin campaign. Some of the guys are looking like they need a bit of a rest, but we need to start with you first. I want you to come back absolutely fucking raring to go. So you got a week off.
Yeah.
And so he and his missus went to, I don't know, they went up the coast somewhere, Coffs Harbour or something like that. Who cares? That's what they did. They went up there.
Okay.
Buzz Rothfield got the shits.
Why?
Well, you know, every other person has, like Nathan Cleary. He flew up to Townsville when he was unable to play to watch his team play.
Yeah.
There was some other captain who flew over to New Zealand to watch their team play over there when they weren't able to play, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And his argument was Tedesco should have been there with his team when they were playing against the Storm.
Okay.
He was making a huge fucking deal about it. Yeah. And my response is, I don't give a fuck.
No, especially when the club has told him to do it.
So the NRL fans shouldn't be pluralised.
Yeah.
It's in frenzy.
One old fuck.
And let's be honest, he's not a fan either because he doesn't watch the game and he doesn't like it.
No. It's up, they're on past his bedtime.
Yeah, so it should start with, instead of saying NRL fans, it should say dumb old cunt in frenzy over James Tedesco act amid the ugly wife furor. So the reason why his wife's involved is because she put up one picture of the ocean saying something like, we're having a bit of time to relax before we get back into the serious part of the season or something like that. It was completely innocuous.
Okay, yeah.
There's no humans in it.
Yeah. What's the ugly part though?
Because the I don't know, I'm guessing it's either the frenzy or the furor is what's ugly.
Yeah.
But the dickheads have put wife between furor and ugly to make it look like they've made out like James Tedesco. They've made it out so that NRL fans are very, very pissed off because James Tedesco has an ugly wife.
Can you believe that the players don't want to talk to these journalists, by the way?
Sorry?
Can you believe that the players don't want to talk to these journalists, by the way? Isn't that a shock?
Yeah. But how can you get that heading wrong? How can you not read that and go, maybe that's wrong?
I was expecting some scandalous stuff.
No, he just did what he was told to do.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Journos, you're fucked. Get better at English. It's kind of the trade you ply. You should be better at that. Mm-hmm. Now, one other thing I did hear about was Cameron Ciraldo.
Mm-hmm.
Word is,
he's not tired, is he?
He's starting to get a bit tired.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. First year into, what is it, a 5-year deal?
Yeah, it's something like that, isn't it? It's a long one.
Yeah, there's talk that Gus has said, man, you're looking a little bit sleepy.
Well, I mean, there was news during the week that they told a couple of players that they'd re-signed to long-term deals earlier this year, that they could look elsewhere. So the Phil Gould salary cap bullshit where he treats it like a fantasy team is well underway now. And, it's... I said Ciraldo needs to go in and say, hey, I've got to be completely in charge of all of this because his career is on the line. This is it for him. If he stuffs this up, it's going to be very hard for him to get a career going after this. And, if it's his whole career. He can't leave a percentage of it to Phil Gould's whims, you know. Gould has spent a lot of money and been paid a lot of money to get the Bulldogs to second last on the ladder. I mean, it's such a failure. It's a real big failure. And people will point to what he did at Penrith. The Bulldogs don't have this ridiculous junior base that spits out internationals every couple of years. Whether you look after it, don't look after it, you know, it's just going to do it. Michael Jennings turned up when they were coached by Matthew Elliott, you know. So I just don't know where it all goes for the Bulldogs, because it feels like they make poor decisions with recruitment, and the coach is going to wear it. But this will be the third coach under Phil Gould.
It's I don't know. I wonder if Phil Gould's looking at the Tigers manager and going, I reckon I can beat that record with sacking coaches.
I mean, it's got to be close. Have I missed? Was there somebody else in there? There was Dean Pay, there was Trent Barrett, and was there? Did Steve Georgalis coach for a little bit there too, or there was someone there?
I think Georgalis was.
Oh, you know who it was?
Mainly?
No, it was the dude that used to coach
Mick Potter.
Yeah, Mick Potter. That's it.
Yeah.
Didn't keep him around either, did he?
No, which is crazy given how well he did
in
such a short period of time.
Yep.
When did Gould turn up there?
It's a good question. I feel like he's been there. He was there I think he was there 2019, wasn't he?
Because he had that one season where he was helping out the Warriors via text message.
Yeah. Or maybe that was 2019 and it was partway through that he went to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, because the year after that, the year before that, he did the review of the Dragons.
Yeah.
And hasn't that gone well?
Yeah, yeah. See, I think that the thing about Gould at Penrith, they needed somebody to come in and be in charge of stuff. And because there really wasn't that one focus of someone that could make those decisions. In a way, it was almost like the Panthers club said, we need this to happen to us, and we're willing to give the power over to somebody else to do this, which you don't see very often. It's kind of crazy that they did that. Gould come in, he talked to everyone, and then started making changes. Getting rid of Matthew, just having somebody that could make the decision to get rid of Matthew Elliott was a positive. You know, being able to get Ivan Cleary was kind of a miracle, because the New Zealand Warriors should never, ever, ever, ever have let him go. That's the biggest, probably wasted opportunity as far as a coach goes in the modern era of the game.
Oh, no, the West Tigers let him go as well, and they should never have done that.
That's true. And but, I mean,
they forced that upon him too.
But he didn't want to leave the Warriors. And I think he wanted like a 3-year deal or something, or a 4-year deal, and they only wanted to give him 2 years. And it's like, what was the alternative? And we've seen the alternative for the Warriors. It's been, you know, terrible since Ivan Cleary left until this year.
Yeah.
But when Ivan Cleary come back for his second stint, the first thing I think he did was say, Gould's got to be out of here by a certain time, because the club has been much more stable since Gould has been gone, and there's been less off-field generated bullshit since Phil Gould was gone. And it's been nice. It's been good, and I think it's been good for the team, you know. All of the continued drama is not good for a club, especially when the guy's supposed to be running the football department, you know.
Yeah. I think we're seeing he left the Panthers and they went well without him there.
Yeah.
He did a review of the Dragons, which has seen them go worse.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the Bulldogs and he's making them go worse.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he needs to go to the Tigers because he can't make them worse than the shit they already are. That might be the thing that, you know, 2 wrongs make a right.
It's possible, hey?
He'd be able to white-hand the fucking Muppets running the show better than anybody else and get them out of there. And then Sheens could knife him in the back like he always does.
Yeah, that would be good. What if he sacks Sheens, but in 4 years' time, Sheens comes back to do a review of Phil Gould and then sacks Gould?
It takes his job.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be very West Tigers.
It's the circle of life at the West Tigers.
It is. It's kind of like if you were to get, having Goulds and Sheens having that bicker. I think it'd be like getting two hammers and bashing them together. You get a massive explosion and everyone loses their sight, but nothing else happens. It's just misery and things just get worse.
I was talking to you about this the other week where I was listening to a podcast and it was former Philadelphia 76ers coach Doc Rivers was talking to Bill Simmons, and he was talking about how when he come into the Philadelphia 76ers and they'd been through the process, which is basically tank as much as you can, get as many top draft picks as you can year after year, and then at some point you flick a switch and you become good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't worked out great, but
surprise.
But okay, they did start winning games, and but then they got to a point where they made a coaching change. Doc Rivers come in. Doc Rivers talked about when you go into a team that has been so bad for so long, the things that the players have learned in terms of the standards that are set and what you need to do to be professional, they're set at such a low level that it is pretty much impossible to turn it around without replacing everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And he was talking about the guy that won the MVP award this year. As good as he was, there are still things that he just doesn't feel he needs to do to be successful because he was not taught this stuff early on. And I've talked about this a little bit on a podcast and touched on it a bit where you look at the Bulldogs and the West Tigers, the Dragons now to a certain extent. And the Newcastle Knights is a really good example. When your club goes not just bad, but goes to absolute rock bottom. So if you say, for instance, the Gold Coast Titans, bad, that's bad, right?
Yep.
But it hasn't been the sort of rock bottom that the Knights, the Bulldogs, and the Tigers have hit, where it's just a mess, a hopeless mess, and you stay there, right?
Yep.
To get out of that, I think the Knights are showing it's like a 10-year process. And that's why it's so important not to end up in that hopeless position, because you don't just turn it around. It's something where it takes kind of about 3 or 4 different coaches and a massive turnover of players, a new generation of juniors coming in, like so many different players that you bring from outside of the club that some of them retire, it's almost impossible to turn it around. And it's probably the hardest thing to do in football is to make that big turnaround. And I've thought about that for a while. We don't have tanking for draft picks in the NRL, but when your team tanks so bad, getting out of that situation is it's almost impossible. And I think we're seeing that right now. I mean, you look at the Bulldogs have had 4 different coaches now under Phil Gould. This is their 4th coach. They have spent millions of dollars on players. They have got rid of other players, brought guys in, and they're second last.
Yeah. That's the thing. They've brought in a lot of players who've come from a lot of success.
Yeah.
And they seem to think that if you come from success, everyone else will come up to your level. But more often than not, it is easier to get lazier than it is to get, to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
And if that comes back to what you were saying there, if the bar is set low, then they don't have to try harder. They just stay where they are and they'll plateau. So they're not getting lazier, but they plateau, which is basically the same as going backwards these days.
Yeah.
If you're not going forward, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
So they plateau, they don't go anywhere until everyone comes up to where they are and they get a little bit more competitive, but that's as far as they go, a little bit better. And a little bit better is not enough when the game constantly evolves and changes. If you're not constantly, with where the game is changing to. Everyone should have seen a few years ago when they started changing the rules, especially when they changed from 2 referees down to 1 that being defensively strong was going to be really important
Mm-hmm.
because the attack was going to open up a little bit more. There's going to be a little bit more freedom around the ruck as well. So you need to start being better defensively, especially in the middle. And, I've said it recently. You have a look on the stats for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and the top 8 defensive sides are the 8 teams that make the finals.
Yeah.
Not the best attacking sides. They're all over the place. But the best defensive sides are the ones that are making the finals. And I don't know. It's just an obvious... That is one of the easiest and most obvious stats to look at, which dictates so much. And yet so many clubs still haven't figured that out.
I think because it's defense, people say defense is an attitude, and it really is. And it's an effort thing as well, and sometimes you'll see teams, they'll be leading by 40 points and they'll kill themselves to stop a try. The Storm are great at that, and yeah, it's weird that when you see a team that just can't get over that hump, and it's almost like losing is a disease. And once that disease is in your club, it's hard to eradicate, really, really difficult to eradicate.
At what point, though, does, say, like with the West Tigers, that the disease wants to try and shake the West Tigers? Because I think failure is now infected with the West Tigers, and it wants out.
Yeah, it's sick of it. It just wants to change the scenery.
That's all. I just want to know if the grass is greener somewhere else. Can I go back to Wales, please?
It's really shocking that. I mean, the West Tigers spend the same amount of money on players as the Panthers do, and we shouldn't really talk about the Panthers. We've talked about the Panthers being an anomaly. Like, what we're seeing with the Panthers is only happened at this point, I don't know, 5 or 6 times ever in Australian Rugby League, where you've got this young team that's achieved so much so quickly. It just doesn't happen. And normally it's older teams that do that. So it's hard to really say, I like the Panthers. But look at the Storm. The Storm is a good way to line clubs up because they don't have local juniors. So they've got to recruit their juniors. So they're on the back foot straight away compared to most clubs. And yet they've got this mentality at the club and a professionalism that even when they can lose a handful of really good players, I mean, their forward pack was decimated at the end of last year. And yet you look at them play this year and they're pretty bloody good still. And that's the professionalism of the club, and that's the standards that they set for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're number 30 on the list or the club captain. They expect a standard out of you. And you can't just flick the switch, it doesn't happen like that. And that's why we've had these terrible teams in the last 10 years.
Well, if we look at the last 50 NRL games ladder that I put up, which I mentioned before,
mm-hmm.
Penrith are at the top of the list, 40 wins from 50 games.
Jesus Christ.
The West Tigers at the bottom, 10 wins from 50 games.
That's equally as bad. Jeez.
As someone replied, the Tigers are the yin to the Panthers' yang.
Yeah.
The Panthers have the best points difference, the best attack, and the best defense, and the Tigers have the worst points difference, the worst defense, and the worst attack.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. The only area that the Tigers are not the worst at is the number of times they've conceded scores of 40 or more.
Oh, who's done that worst? Is it the Bulldogs?
The Dragons have had it happen 10 times in the last 50 games.
God,
which is a lot.
That's crazy, yeah.
And the next worst is the Warriors and the Bulldogs with 8 each.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Manly, the Knights, and the Tigers all have 6 each.
Okay. And the Warriors, they're once again an anomaly with what they've gone through.
Yes, and they are starting to surge up through the pack pretty quickly too.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting. Now, the other interesting thing for me was the number of teams that are all hanging around, 31 to 29 wins out of the last 50 games.
Mm-hmm.
So Melbourne has 31 wins. So they're second best. Cronulla.
Wow, they're so far behind Penrith.
9 wins behind.
Crazy.
Cronulla, these are in order for points difference, by the way. Cronulla's third, and along with Cowboys and Brisbane both have 30 wins from 50 games.
Mm-hmm.
South and Parramatta and the Raiders have 29 wins each. So they make up the top 8. Then the Roosters have got 27, and then there's a big gap after that. Manly with 22. On win percentage, the Dolphins come in 11th.
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors with 21 wins. The Knights with 19. The Titans and Dragons with 17. The Bulldogs with 14, and the Tigers with 10.
Wow. That's interesting, hey?
It is. It's amazing too, for me, how, like you talk about the gap between Penrith and Melbourne for wins.
Yeah.
The gap between those two sides, and they're the two best defensive sides.
Yeah.
The gap there in defence is insane. Melbourne's conceded 901 points, so that's 18 points a game. And Penrith have conceded 644 at 12.8 points per game.
Well, they're the best. I think they're the best defensive team of the modern era. And
comfortably.
Yeah, and I think that, when you start looking at the best defensive teams of all time, it's hard to really quantify because the game has changed so much. Like, it's difficult. But, what they do every week is kind of crazy. That's why even last week, they put 40 on the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs scored, I think, 18 points by the end of the game. And it was like, oh, what's wrong with Penrith? They let them score that many points. It's only 18 points.
So the other thing I was going to raise, because this one is what surprised me too, is how many points do you think Panthers have scored more than Melbourne in the last 50 games?
More. In the last 50?
Yep.
I bet it's actually pretty close.
You're right there.
Yeah. Are they within 10 or something ridiculous like that?
Yes, they are.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It is 1 point.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I thought that was pretty insane. So Penrith 1270, Melbourne 1269, the Sharks 1252. They're only 18 points away. The Cowboys are only 4 points behind the Sharks. South are 12 points behind the Cowboys. Parramatta's 15 points behind South. Starts to drop off after that. But yeah, it's pretty close. There's 6 teams all with 49 points between them, between 1270 and 1221.
Wow. I think the thing, like if you think about the big wins, like that, say 60 points, putting 60 points on a team, I think it's fair to say it's more likely that Melbourne or even South will do that to someone than Penrith.
Yeah, the big 50-plus scores, absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as scores of 40 or more, the Panthers have done that more often than anybody else.
Yeah. But they don't kick on and do those, like, what are the record books saying now,
Yeah, that's right.
They haven't done that.
They get out to a good lead and then they just go, right, let's just focus on being, some defense training.
Yeah, pretty much. And, the thing about what Penrith are doing, it's hard to really argue with anything that they're doing, because it obviously works. But I wonder if we will, during this time that they're all together, if we'll see them come up against a team where, for whatever reason it clicks. It looked like it was going to be that way at the start of that Bulldogs game on the weekend, but then the game changed a little bit. And honestly, it sounds silly because of the scoreline, but I thought the Bulldogs did pretty well considering. But I wonder if we ever see a moment where, say, for instance, for whatever reason the stars align and Penrith comes out against a team just feeling really good and they play like that first half in the grand final last year and they do that against a poor team and all of a sudden it's like they've got 48 points at half time, because against the Eels, there were points in that game where it was like you started looking at the record books in that first half hour of the game, I think that most teams, they would have put 60 on. I think they would have flogged. I thought the Eels did pretty good to get out of there with not giving up the record score in a grand final.
Yeah.
And if they come out and play like that against, say, for instance, the Dragons like what would they be capable of? That's one thing I would like to know.
I'd like to see what they were able to do again. Yeah, Penrith. If they went, fuck it, let's try and smash some record books today. I'd like to stay up against the West Tigers, but for some reason Penrith wants to struggle against them all the time. So maybe the Bulldogs. Just see what they can do.
Yeah.
Why do Penrith struggle against the Tigers? Is it because they're blown away by how shit they are and it's sort of tears in their eyes from all the laughter, or what is it? I don't get it.
I don't know, because it's like they're 3-2 over the West Tigers, I think we found out.
It's not...
Oh, no, I tell you what, it was like 3 wins and 2 losses during Jerome Luai's career against the West Tigers, which
that's right.
Not a bad marker for this current generation of the Panthers. So, yeah, it's a weird one.
It is an odd one.
I know you and me, when they've played against one another in the last couple of years, we've been waiting for that game.
Yeah, I've been waiting for Penrith to turn up and just put 90 on the Tigers, and it just doesn't happen. I don't know whether I'm disappointed or happy with the result.
It's kind of it's hard to say, because I feel sorry for West Tigers fans, and I'd hate seeing you fucking see a team going through it, but it feels a little bit disappointing when it's like they will win 28 points to 14 or something like that, and it's like, oh, you know.
Well, the thing that's disappointing about it is because the Tigers have been competitive. Everyone at the club goes, wow, that was not a bad result. And going, it's a loss. Yeah, but we didn't get flogged. And going, that shouldn't be the marker.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's where they're at.
Because, you would have to say the West Tigers are the most likely to give up that ridiculous scoreline.
They've conceded 70 twice in 2 seasons now.
Yeah. When the West Tigers play the Storm, I don't care how bad the Storm's going, you could see the Storm put 66 points on them, you know?
Yeah. That's not a tall order at all. Now, we're going to change the pace a little bit here and shift our attention over to England.
Oh, nice.
Have you heard who's in the Challenge Cup final this year?
I believe it is those crack addicts from Hull KR.
Yes.
Meth smoking bloody backwards hillbilly cunts. And the other ones are the leopard bums.
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
That's there's a lot of people over in England who are saying this is going to be one of the worst drawing Challenge Cup finals in ages. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, is it though? Because, and hear me out here, it's not because I think both these teams have got massive followings and they're going to turn up and swamp the crowd. I think something more about the intrigue factor. Like, oh, we've finally got a final in a game of rugby league over there that doesn't include Wigan, Leeds, St Helens.
Yeah.
They're not one of the two teams in there.
Yeah, I think I'll watch it now.
I'm curious to see what'll happen.
Yeah.
So I might tune in. I don't know which team I want to support in this one.
I was thinking about this. I think, and I know I'm a Hull FC fan, a proud bottle thrower, and it would almost be blasphemous to go for Hull KR, but I've got some friends that follow Hull KR, and I know how over the moon they'd be if they won the Challenge Cup. And also, they're not called the Lee Leopards.
Well, the thing with the Lee Leopards is they're called the Leopards, but the animal on their jumper is not a leopard.
No.
It's a different type of cat.
Yeah.
So, they don't even know what they are. They should just go back to being the Centurions. Whatever it was that ripped off Wigan.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Hull KR
I don't know. Who was it that ripped off? It wasn't Wigan. Who were the Centurions before?
Oh, shit. I can't remember.
Nah, neither can I. Who cares?
And look, Hull KR is a very famous club. Their supporters do stick by them through thick and thin, like being in a dole line. And, they'd be pretty excited because there's not many people in Leigh. I mean, if you took the whole town of Leigh and stuck it in the stand would still be half empty. So it's going to mostly be Hull KR fans. I wish I was selling spoons in London that weekend, hey?
You're busy selling them out of Campbelltown, that's why.
Incredible.
Oh man, it's it's interesting. I'm definitely going to try and tune in for that one. It's on at 3 p.m. London time. I don't know what time that is over here anymore.
That would be. Let me think. I'll work it out. That's midnight. Midnight.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Why? What's wrong with that?
I've got to work the next day.
Well, you can fucking not have any sleep. Just pull a sickie. No one's listening to this, Andrew Ferguson. Just pull a sickie.
I'll just have to watch it on replay or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch it on the train when I get up at 5 a.m. to go to work.
Yeah.
Trying not to look at social media.
True.
It's not exactly hard. All they're doing is bitching about a book about rooting. No, I won't go down that path. We'll move on. What else is there to talk about? There was an international game that was played over the week.
Oh, yeah, there was. Who was it between again? I forget.
It was Philippines played against South Africa.
Yeah, and South Africa smashed them.
Yes. Large reason for that was the Philippines side was not their top quality side either.
Okay.
Yeah, but the South Africans won 72-14, so that must mean something to them, I guess.
Yeah, I wonder if people in South Africa knew it was on.
I'll go with no.
Yeah. They're weird, those internationals that just pop up out of nowhere and are played in Australia.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was played on the Gold Coast as well, this one, so it was, this is an interesting one. South Africa up 48-4 at half time. Is there anyone in here who we might know? Let's have a look. I don't think there will be.
Ruckerson, is he there?
No.
Ah, damn it.
No one there.
Okay.
There you go. Great game.
I think that games like that, when it's not your full side, they really should be called like, say Philippines A or something like that.
Yeah, but because of this weird system they've got with the rankings, as we found during COVID, and how England got to number one purely just through playing whatever. It didn't matter if they won or lost. I think another team went up because even though they lost games, just having games is enough to get you moving upwards, and that's a weird system.
Yeah, and I guess the thing to remember too is now you're moving up in a system that has no outcome. So, I mean, how much does it really matter?
Well, that's the thing. They want it to. So, I don't know. They've got to figure out a way to make that thing work, because at the moment, it's you can't have a sensible, smart, logical, like statistically logical ladder to determine who the best team in the world is, when some of the European nations could play, 7 or 8 games in a year, and Australia might only play 1.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that the Netherlands, while winning 4 or 5 games throughout the year, are better than Australia, even if Australia loses by 1 point to New Zealand or something like that.
Yeah, and
there's something they've got to work on there.
Yeah, and look, last year's World Cup showed us that people in Europe can't play rugby league. And the results prove that.
Yeah, so I don't know what they do. They're trying to use these weird percentages systems. They've used ones with total points. They've used the only thing that makes logical sense that they've gone to in recent times is having historical records there. Mm-hmm. The only problem with that, though, is it will give teams who have been around for a lot longer, but not necessarily strong teams, a higher ranking than they probably deserve. So, for example, Russia and the USA first played games in the very early 1990s. A lot of other international sides didn't come in until after that. Yeah. Japan played on and off after about 1995. But then you look at teams like Wales played in the early 1900s.
First Test match ever.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird. France stopped being genuinely competitive with the big nations in the 60s, but because they've been playing since the 1930s, and they were good, they were world class in the 50s. and rightfully declared the greatest international side during the 1950s.
Mm.
That was a phenomenal side they had then. And it was a massive upset when they lost the World Cup in 1954. Massive upset.
Mm-hmm.
But, having all of that success 70 years ago, it's still going to count to having them have a higher ranking, whether they deserve it or not. So it's a hard one. You've got to try and find that balance. So maybe not have results from the entire past included, but maybe just have either the number of games played or the year that they first started playing international football as some sort of a marker. So maybe they're going to a group based on what decade they came in or something like that, or the number of years they've played. So, as time goes on, they might drop down into another group with another team or something like that, and then they can start dropping further down if they're no good, or, jumping up further if they start getting better and better. Might be a way. They've got to start grouping it a little bit differently so it's a bit more accurate.
I think it comes back to the question of who the world rankings for. If it's to get a snapshot of where teams actually stand, I think that the way they're doing it is completely arse backwards, and really, if you want to go by where teams actually stand, you kind of got to eyeball it. And the problem is the way the International Rugby League would eyeball it is they'd say, well, we want to get a bunch of English journalists and a bunch of Australian journalists that we know, so they're all working in England, and we want them to work out where all the teams are. And, oh, my God, England's so good on this list that we've put out. And, like you and me look at the current list and we laugh at it, right? And you and me are about as diehard rugby league people as you could find. So neutral people, neutral people don't look at it,
No.
They don't look at it. So who's it for?
I
don't think the current list is for anyone. I think it's a big wank.
In its current system, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
What it should be for is determining who makes the World Cup.
But we don't have World Cups anymore.
No. We're talking about, how it should work. So if we had an actual World Cup that was run properly and we had a set number of teams in there, then the ranking should determine which teams are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to have all of these little competitions everywhere. And well, you can still have them, but they shouldn't be the determining factor of who gets in. It's hard to argue against, say, a team like Serbia in Europe has probably been one of the most consistently strongest sides throughout the last 15 years in that lower tier of Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've never made a World Cup, but Greece came out of nowhere and just got it in the space of 2 or 3 seasons. And to me, I don't want to take anything away from Greece, given where they came from and what they had to do in order just to play rugby league there. That is nothing short of phenomenal, but it doesn't seem right given how much Serbia has done and how much they've worked and how much stuff they've achieved in their own country and what they've done at the international level to be completely dismissed, I guess, as a possible team to play in the World Cup just because of a few little competitions here and there.
Well, what we need, we really in rugby league badly need a second tier of World Cup.
They had one.
The Merging Nations one.
Yeah.
And look,
they've only played it twice, though.
I know. And
miles apart.
And I don't know if you call it that Amateur Rugby League World Champions or Championship or whatever. I think Emerging Nations is a bit condescending.
It is.
But there needs to be that level because, as good as Serbia has been and as much footy as the Netherlands plays and as great of a story it was for Greece, and those sides against a Samoa are not even they're like a bug on a windshield, and that's not good for anyone. That's not good for those teams. That's not good for Samoa. That's not good for rugby league. That's good for no one. And we need that level so that if Serbia is killing everyone at that level, and it's clear they're just a cut above everyone else, or they have a handful of professional players come through for whatever reason. Then put them in the main World Cup. But as it stands, having these lower tier nations up against sides that like they're not even like they're worse than a training run for them. It's not good for rugby league, and that's what we saw at the last World Cup, where what did we work out? There were 6 competitive matches in the whole thing.
Yeah,
it was fucking boring. And if you and me are sitting there going, "This fucking thing is boring," then neutral people are watching it and just saying, "Oh, I'll never come back and watch this stuff again," because the last one was shit.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And while we're on International Rugby League, here's one you might know a bit more about.
Mm-hmm.
The PNG NRL bid received a $5.5 million boost from the Australian government on the 22nd of July, just 3 days ago.
Okay, so good news, everyone. Really good news. In Australia, we tackled homelessness. No homeless people anymore. So we're now able to spend money on PNG's fucking NRL team bid. Isn't it wonderful?
Well, at least the money that the government has isn't going to other sports.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Why can't they give some of the money to the West Tigers?
I'm just surprised all that money wasn't sent to the Ukraine like everything else. I know. Don't start me on this shit, Andrew. God. I thought it was fucking outrageous to see $5.5 million was spent on an NRL team bid by the federal government. I had somebody message me and say, don't discount the fact that this bid will get very powerful backing, not just by business within PNG and some of the biggest mining companies in the world there, but by many different governments that think that it would be a way to have a PNG team to grease the wheels for PNG to stay on side with them, as opposed to cozying up with other governments in the region that they don't want them cozying up with. I hope that makes sense to everyone.
It's a really, really, really weird thing, because what happens if the NRL goes, let's not have a team in PNG?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what the fuck would you spend $5.5 million on?
Well, I'm looking at the quotes here from the Federal Minister for International Development and the Pacific, Mr. Pat Conroy.
Mm-hmm.
He announced this pledge during his recent visit to PNG, and he said, "During my visit this week, I was proud to announce $5.5 million to support Papua New Guinea's pathway to having a team in Australia's National Rugby League competition. This investment by the Albanese government will support player pathways and a talent academy for PNG youth, recognising their great potential and passion for the game. It will help develop the business case for a PNG team to play in the NRL. It is the next step in our support for rugby league in PNG, building on long-running support for the sport at the grassroots through development programs like League for Life and high-performance programs under Pacific Oz Sports. Talent identification and player development are a critical part of developing a competitive and sustainable PNG NRL team." Any chance Pat Conroy can run the Tigers?
That would be handy, eh?
He sounds like he knows what he's talking about a little bit. The only weird thing about this is, because rugby league is the national sport of PNG,
yeah,
all the pathways that the juniors have there is directly into rugby league. So I don't get what he's getting on about there.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that, because PNG's not like, unless you're living in PNG right now and you're listening to this podcast, PNG is like no country for any other listener that we have. It's a very different country. And, you know, there's a huge opportunity there to use sport to get different messages to people. And I think that that's a positive thing. And we've seen that. I think a number of years ago, we saw the Australian A team went over and Mal Meninga was obviously coaching them, and they love Mal Meninga over there. And they were pushing the message about safe sex during that tour. And it was an opportunity to get that message out there through rugby league. So there's that positive that comes out of it. But when you see that it's going into a bid for a professional team, I think that puts a lot of people offside. But you just need to look at the person that is announcing it and what their job title is. Like, this wasn't the Minister for Sport or anything. And this was only pointed out to me during the week by somebody that tweeted it to me. And they said it's probably part of something much bigger, and to keep your mind on that. And if that's the case, I think PNG will be the next team in the NRL, because I think that they will get so much backing from powerful people that the NRL would be very hard pressed to say no to it. And that's looking past the football side of things, where I think you and me agree. You could probably put PNG in the NRL this weekend, and they would not be a bad team to watch.
Oh, absolutely not. They play the game with such a unique sort of flair and physicality.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's addictive to watch. I'd love to see PNG competition games on TV on a regular basis.
Can you imagine?
They are insane.
It would be cool to see like some of the local PNG games, and I mean they must be just wars. They must be absolute just, because the way that their test team plays, it doesn't matter who they're playing against, they just go in 1,000% and try and destroy you. Doesn't matter who you are, and seeing two PNG sides playing each other would be so cool.
They are just intense. I fucking love it, man.
Yeah.
It's addictive to watch.
Yeah, they're my favourite team to watch.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. One of the greatest games I saw as far as intensity goes was watching when they played Great Britain a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God, that was insane. Was there anything else to go on about in rugby league world?
The only other thing that jumped out at me was Dane Laurie going back to the Panthers for 1 year, and then he went and he started playing pretty well for the West Tigers immediately. Interesting move by him. I think it's probably a smart move. There's a little bit of talk about Jerome Luai. He has changed management companies. And, of course, whenever the media hears a player changes management companies, they say it's a drama. Like, it's not just a business decision that maybe was made. But and so the Panthers are going to have to make a decision about how much they spend on his contract. I think that he'll stay around. I can't imagine they're going to break up this Panthers team. But
well, there was an article today that said that Dylan Edwards is about to resign for $950K a year.
Yeah, I mean, the money's drying up in terms of under the salary cap. And, you know, it's hard to argue with giving that money to Dylan Edwards. You know, he just does the job so well.
Yeah.
And then you've got Cleary. They've got the two front rowers locked up. Liam Martin's going to re-sign for 3 years. I think that might be done already. Isaiah Yo's under contract. Tungor is under contract for long term. To'o's under contract. I think he re-signed a few weeks ago. So most of their key players are signed up except Jerome Luai, basically. So, you know, is he going to be the odd man out? You'd hope not. But, you know, if Dane Laurie comes back, and I don't think Dane Laurie's shown enough to suggest he's going to be the 5'8" for the Panthers going forward as a replacement for Luai, but he's put himself there. I think that's the best way to put it. He's put himself back in that mix.
Yeah.
And he, you know, who knows? He might kill it at Penrith. Who knows?
I wonder too if both he and Peachy are there currently, with the majority of their contract being paid by the Tigers.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because that would be a way for them to actually have them on the books, and that's why they've only signed short-term deals for both of them.
Yeah, yeah, because it's basically the end of their Tigers deals.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the soft targets under the cap is everyone should be sniffing around Bulldogs players.
Oh yeah.
because you're going to get them subsidised by the Bulldogs. And even if they're just bog average first graders, you might get them for 50% off of what a bog average first grader is worth because of Phil Gould and the way he treats their cap. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. There was talk that Jerome Luai could be a target for the Bulldogs.
Everyone's a target for the Bulldogs at the moment, aren't they?
But that's the thing. Like if they get, say, Big Tino from the Gold Coast, right, and they think, let's get rid of, Tavita Pangai Jr., or they say, Kickow hasn't played for us really this year. Maybe we should move him on because he's got a niggling injury. You might pick up these guys, even if they're like 30% of their salary is paid by the Bulldogs. That's huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the moment, I've seen talk that Josh Hodgson is about to retire.
Yeah, because of his neck, yep.
Yep. What else was there? God, there was someone else. Obviously, Josh Reynolds is retired.
Do you think that, I just thought of this right now, Parramatta Eels have a Dylan Brown situation, right?
Mm.
And I don't know that they know what they want to do with that situation. And they look at their team and they know that they're there in the mix, but they're not really over the top as a real premiership contender. And Jerome Luai is possibly available.
Would Luai work with Moses?
I think he would. What do you think? They're both runners. That's the only thing that worries me.
I think the thing that Luai needs is he needs to have, first of all, he needs to be on the front foot when he's getting the ball. So a good hooker is really important to him.
Yeah.
Kind of very similar to Cody Walker.
Yeah.
When the pack's not on the front foot and he's getting the ball flat-footed or sideways, he's doing nothing. Mm-hmm. But if he's running forward, he's going to fucking kill you. And Luai's the same. So I think the Eels, they need to be finding themselves a hooker first and foremost because they've been struggling without Reid Mooney there all year.
Mm.
That's been evidently clear. And now they're going to be without Hodgson just into his first season. So they need to get him medically retired, free up that cash, get themselves a decent hooker. They don't have to get a rich one. They just need to get one who knows how to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then they've got to, if they want, they could probably get Luai then. I do think, though, they should be chasing a proper fullback and move Gutherson to 5'8". I think that would work better for the team cohesion.
Yeah.
Because I think too many of their sets are starting, flat-footed, or they're bringing a winger in for the first hit-up, and then Gutherson's taken the second one, or they've got to wait for someone to rush back on side. And it's a bit of it's a sloppy way to start your sets.
And like every single run back that they're going to do this weekend, you and I and everyone both knows how it's going to work out. And that's a problem because you can plan for it so well.
Yeah. He's going to run straight towards his winger.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And
so as soon as you do that, you're boxing your winger into the corner, or you're making your winger run sideways. Neither of them are putting the rest of your team in any good position to move forward. Because if you're putting them in the corner, all the opposition's defence just parks on one side and they just hammer you, and they bury you.
Yeah.
Or if you're running sideways, the defensive line's already set. Well, you've still got all your guys coming back on field, and so you're starting to get buried again. So
that's why To'o is I think he's the best winger in the game right now because he gets the ball and 98% of the time he's pushing through the line, and instead of the defence coming up and having a set, the defence kind of has to come up and then they've got to backtrack and then set. And straight away you're on the back foot,
The other thing that To'o does really well that never gets mentioned is the fucking fast play of the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
He falls forward nearly every goddamn time and he's straight up on his feet facing the right direction and play the ball's quick, which means the next tackle's that's off the mark. And that's what's so good about him. His 1-2-0 run gives you 2 good runs.
And the other thing is too, you've got him on one side, you've got Taruva on the other side, who just has worked so hard under the high ball, and you can really see it. And he's a really strong ball runner too. And I think the fact that there's one of the best strong ball runners we've probably seen in the last 20 years on the other side takes away from what you see from him, because it doesn't stand out as much as it really would in most teams.
Yeah.
But then you get Edwards, who, you know, sometimes you see Edwards and you think, oh, he's ran into a 3-man tackle. Wait a minute, he just spun out of it and he's still going. And he looks like he's doing everything really slowly. And so he's really weird and awkward for teams to deal with as well. And he doesn't necessarily do the same thing every time. And that's, as you say, that's the problem with the Parramatta Eels. Every single start to their set from a long kick, you know exactly where they're going to be, exactly what they're going to do. What if they got rid of Brown and offered his money to Joey Manu as a fullback?
Ooh,
that would be horrifying, I think, for opposition teams.
Yeah, Joey Manu coming into Parramatta would be putting him at a fullback, other centre 5'8". Also puts the Roosters in a bit of a quandary, because I think they'd be looking at Manu taking over from Tedesco, but I don't know. I reckon if Manu got offered a fullback gig straight away, he'd be A, mad not to take it, and B, I think he'd be very keen to take it.
Yeah, and look, I would say to Manu, like, what are you waiting for Tedesco to have his time so you get yours? Like, grab what you can right now.
Yeah, you get $1 million to be a fullback, you know, in 4 years' time, or you can just start getting that money now.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know what's going to happen, you know. So that would be an interesting move. But we'll see what happens. I tend to think that with a lot of these player movements that have been talked about, most of the players are going to stick with their club. Like even Payne Haas, I wouldn't be shocked if he just stays at Brisbane.
Oh yeah, I reckon he'll stay.
And Tino, Big Tino at the Gold Coast, I think he's going to stay at the Gold Coast. I actually think he likes playing there.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised if he does move to the Dolphins, just because it's even closer to where his family is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
His family comes from, I believe, from Gympie Way, which is north of Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
So the Redcliffe Dolphins are on the north side of Brisbane, so it would put him a lot closer to his family. Not that he's that far away from it at the moment, but, you know, that might be something that would tempt him to head that way.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to tell you, I think I've got a new favourite team over in England.
Oh, really? Who is it?
Well, not really in England. They're in France, the Catalan Dragons.
Okay, why is that?
They might be about to stop the West Tigers from making a West Tigers signing.
Have they signed Aiden Caesar?
No, but they're apparently very keen on signing Matt Moylan, apparently.
That might be a good move for Matt Moylan. But Matt Moylan did feel like a hard West Tigers, didn't he?
He is the typical, like, he is your gold plater West Tigers signing. And not Matt Moylan when he was fucking amazing. Or even Matt Moylan last year, who was pretty bloody handy. Matt Moylan now.
Yeah.
That's a West Tigers signing. And not just signing him, but signing him on big money.
You know who else would be a West Tigers signing? Wade Graham.
Yeah, Wade Graham now, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love Wade Graham as a player. But
get some experience in the side, you know?
Yeah. Maybe wait until next year. just to be safe, you know. Just you want to make sure that he still wants to play. So give him one more season at the Sharks.
Yeah,
if he still wants to play that, you go, oh, okay, we'll sign you. You've proved that you wanted to play last year. That's the rule they used on Tamo.
Yeah, it really is. Well, just do the same thing they did with Tamo. It's like, listen, we hear he's going to retire, but let's just give him a few weeks after the season, maybe a couple of months, and at Christmas time we'll give him an offer.
He'll have itchy feet. He'll want to come back. They all do.
He'll miss the training. We'll give him a few weeks off the start of training, but he'll be back.
And besides, it's not like we're going to give him hard training. We'll even tell him that, mate, at that stage, we're just training out of a school classroom. You'll be fine, mate. What are you going to have to lift up a few tables, stack them up so the cleaner can come in and vacuum the floor? Well, no, we won't even ask you to lift up the vacuum cleaner. Yeah, just take it easy. You'll be fine.
Well known for having the easiest training sessions.
Yeah, we'll even make you captain. No. We don't say that to every other siding. Shit, someone's onto us.
Man, more captains than any other club.
They're talking at the moment that the West Tigers got Appy Coruscant to extend his contract.
Yeah.
They're talking that up like it's a great thing and going, he's already 30-odd. 31?
31, yeah.
And he's got a 2-year deal extended out to 3 years.
Mm.
So he's going to be touching 35 by the time his contract ends now.
And what have I said many times before, Andrew? Name a good hooker in all of rugby league history after the age of about 33 who's not called Cameron Smith.
Yep.
Because I can't fucking think of one.
I'm sure England had one.
Yeah, but they're playing against other Poms. It's fucking easy. It's like being an English winger that scores heaps of tries because you've been marked by other Pommy wingers.
That actually reminds me of a tweet I was asked during the week.
Hmm.
Who was the last Englishman to top the NRL top try scoring charts?
Ooh, let me think. Ooh, was it Brian Carney?
No, but I absolutely expect you to get this.
Okay, your last English winger.
No, not winger. English player to top the try scoring charts for a season in Australia.
Okay, now we're not talking Bob Fulton here, are we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, was it Bob Fulton?
It was Bob Fulton. He's the only one who's ever done it. The only English-born player to ever do it.
There you go, Andrew.
He did it in 73 and 76. As soon as I found that out, I went, Freak, you'll get this. I got to push it to him.
Oh, shit. No, you know what it was? Because didn't they name Carney the fucking Dalian winger of the year that year? There was something that he got, and it was just silly.
It wasn't that stupid bloody Frolingus award, was it?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like it was the Winger of the Year award because
he did get Winger of the Year in 2006.
Yeah, and it was like he's playing for a fucking shitty Newcastle team and everyone. I don't understand what it is with some people. I think that they want English players to be like they used to be, good, and so they get excited when they see one, and that excitement carries over to their assessment of that player. And I've never felt that, so I just call it what I see,
Yes.
He
was the fourth highest try-scoring winger in 2006. Not even the highest try-scoring winger. He had 16 tries from 26 games. Merritt had 20 from 21. El Masri had 17 from 26. Some criminal had 17 from 16. And Carney had 16 from 26.
Oh, there you go. Fucking Bob Fulton. I think he's the best English player of all time, Bob Fulton.
I wouldn't say of all time. There's been some greats, but he's been their best.
Who's been better than Bob Fulton? How dare you?
Well, prior to him, there's been a few.
But who's better?
Oh, mate, jeez. There's been a few. I didn't say a lot.
Did you see Wales unveiled a statue of their 3 rugby league players ever?
No.
Yeah.
Billy Boston?
Yes.
There was one bloke who played for centuries.
Sullivan?
Hey?
Sullivan?
That's him.
Yeah. And then there was another guy. I can't remember the other guy's name.
Dafford?
I honestly can't remember. Hey.
Is it Dye Evans? They've had about 7 players called Dye Evans.
Have they?
I think so. or someone Davies. Davies?
Davies or Evans. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, they named the 3. They had the 3 players.
Yeah, they had three blokes called D-A-I Davies.
Yeah.
And 2 of them played in 1920 in the 1930s.
Really?
Yeah.
All I could think of was I saw them unveil a statue, and I thought, mate, we produce better players than that at Penrith every year.
I need to find out who they are now.
It's a nice statue too. It was on I think it was on some lake shore.
Oh, Gus Risman, of course. But they are three genuine, absolute legends of Welsh Rugby League. But in British Rugby League, to be honest,
Welsh Rugby League.
But there's a big gap between those three and the next best in Wales. Big gap.
Yeah.
That's like trying to put, it's like looking at the gap between, say, Wally Lewis and Sean Rudder.
It's almost as big a gap as you'd find between Kieran Cunningham's tits.
Every time. You get me every time with that. Oh, dear.
Tanya, he's of all of the players I've ever seen play, he's the best player I've ever seen that has a D cup.
Well, except for George Burgess, but his was in his pants. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got massive nuts.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I just thought I'd make that clear. Yeah, let's be honest. Billy Boston, absolute fucking legend.
Welsh Rugby League legend. Amazing. Some of the paintings they did about him, amazing. Didn't have photography back then, but anyway.
Yeah, Clive Sullivan, very, very, very talented winger. 372 tries in just under 600 games.
It was marked by Poms.
Actually, that was probably when the Poms were too bad. He played from 1961 to 1984.
Yeah, that's crazy, hey?
And he died the year after he retired.
Ugh, what did he die of?
That's a good question. Huh? He died of cancer. He was age 42.
Oh, Jesus, that's terrible.
Yeah, it says the city of Hull held him in such high regard that a section of the city's main approach road, the A63 between the Humber Bridge and the city centre, was renamed Clive Sullivan Way in his honour.
Oh, really? That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He died 1 year later from cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the only player I can think of who retired so close to, their personal health impacting that heavily would be, was it Rob Burrow?
Yeah, Rob Burrow, I mean, I feel like he'd been retired for, 2.5 years, maybe, something like that. It wasn't long.
Yeah, and man, his illness has gone so fast.
Yeah, I remember the first time that it sort of, they allowed it to become public, and he wasn't well already at that point. And it was like a hammer blow seeing the poor bloke going through that. Because he's still so young,
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It really is. Who was the other one? Gus Risman. I believe he was also a pretty handy coach too. But yeah, he died in 1994, age 83. Mm-hmm. His career started in 1929 at Salford and retired in 1954 at Batley.
Wow. That's
25 years.
There's something about the lifers, hey?
Yeah.
Like they just go for that long. I guess when you look at Wayne Bennett with his playing record and then he goes into coaching, like that's pretty insane in itself.
Yeah.
And then I guess Craig Bellamy's the same. He's starting to get up there. Yeah.
Oh, look, Risman had over 300 games for two clubs, 427 for Salford and 301 for Workington, and 791 in his career.
Their records are different over there, hey?
Yeah, they did have much longer seasons, but still, you can't take away from the toll that has on the body.
No.
You throw in all the he went on a few tours as well, so he's played a bunch of rep footy as well. That's not included in those numbers. Insane longevity. Like that is the sort of almost once in a generation type of longevity that Cameron Smith, for example, is a good example of.
Yeah. Well, like playing for 20 years now is outrageous.
Yeah.
But doing it before, like, all the nutrition and proper health care and proper injury prevention and then treatment and stuff, it's like you really kind of had to embrace hurting all the time because you did.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, obviously, that period during 29 through to 54, that was some fucking hard tackling in those days. And those grounds in England, they often played on the snow-covered grounds. They were rock hard. And they, especially when they got to the end of the season, because they started playing in the winter most of the time, if they had a few winters in a row where the snow or the rain was so intense, they actually had to call games off. They piled the games on in very short space at the end of the season. So you have a look at some of the schedules that teams would have, and they'd play like maybe 5 or 6 games every month, and then they get to April and May, and there's just like 10 games in April, 12 games in May, just pound them in there, one game every 2 or 3 days just to get the season done so they could still have a normal sort of off season and then bang, come again for the next season. And to have that smashing you at the end of the year, god damn.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, so that's why people like Risman and the other one would be Brian Bevan, had also a massively long career. Two blokes who stand out for longevity anyway. It makes their records just that little bit more insane that they did it for so long, given all of those little challenges they had. Because the modern players today will never ever have to deal with, 2-day breaks between games and stuff like that. That was so common back then, not just in England either. That happened in Australia when you had kangaroo tours and stuff like that. They'd play every 2 or 3 games, every 2 or 3 days. So you'd have 2-3 games a week.
The other thing too that I think gets forgotten about a lot is not knowing your opponent. Like just something really basic like that. Like you might have heard a little bit about them, but you had never seen them before. There wasn't footage or anything. You weren't watching game tapes or anything like that.
Oh God, no.
And so you would go in against dudes and to places you hadn't been before as well. It's stuff like that I think gets forgotten about a little bit. And just that mental preparedness that you'd have to have going into completely unknown territory against completely unknown opponents.
Absolutely. I've always had a bit of a theory that there's a certain period during the 40s and 50s, not so much 40s, 30s and then the 50s and 60s, where whenever one of these tours came on, the first game on the tour, the visiting side would be playing against an absolute minnow of a team. So for a long time, when France came over here, the first team they'd be playing against would be either Western Australia, Northern Territory, or Victoria. And it wasn't because you're trying to develop football there primarily. Like, that's part of the reason. But the majority of the reason was have them play against one of these teams and then send a bunch of the, Australian selectors and stuff like that, or coaching staff along to watch the game, just to watch how they attack. And the first plan was, this is what they're going to do in attack. So we can set our defence to it.
Yeah.
And it happened the other way too. Australia would go over to England, like the first games would be against like some invitational side or some hastily cobbled together rep team or something like that, especially in France. Happened a lot there. It was all about, keeping an eye on them, that sort of thing. There's scouting sort of caper going on. How do we beat this side? Because this is the first chance we're going to get to have a look at them. That's pretty amazing. I find that fascinating.
I always find it interesting when, and it still happens these days, when there'll be a player. I think Anthony Minicello was a really good example of it, where Great Britain just didn't really know much about this fullback, but that he wasn't Lockyer, so he couldn't have been good. He's just this no-name dude.
That's right.
And players like, and there's been a few players like that over the years where they've been like, Oh, yeah, but he's not like this guy whose name we've known for so long. He must be terrible. And then they find out pretty quickly, you know. I mean, for a long time they thought Billy Slater was crap until he started Billy Slatering them, you know.
Oh, imagine thinking that.
Yeah, it's weird. And I always just like...
Was that around the same time they thought Paul Wellens was the best fullback in the world?
Man, I've heard some fucking funny shit out of him. But, like, Kieran Cunningham, not only were his Ds really nice and bouncy and full, but big nips on him too. But he was talked about as the best player in the world over there for a long time, right? And then... there's just silly stuff like that. I remember them saying Stuart Fielden was better than Webke. And I used to say, like, they're not even in the same fucking planet. And they never got that. It was really silly stuff.
Yeah. That does tend to happen an awful lot, though, over there.
Yeah. And look, I get if you're a fan that watches your own club over there, they very much watch their own club more than other clubs over there than we do over here. We're a bit more of a casual fan over here. I get that they're not focused on Australian Rugby League. It's not their job, right? But when their coaches are the ones that don't realise that this Minicello bloke is going to tear you apart, or that Darren Lockyer, he's a 5'8" now, and it doesn't mean that he's going to be any less of a player, that's when, to me, it's like, what the fuck are these people doing? Did they not watch football? They're like, you're the coach. That's your job.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just looking up some Kieran Cunningham stats.
Yeah.
The hooker that he played the most games against, so opposite number hooker, was Terry Newton.
Yep.
17 wins and 17 losses.
Mm-hmm.
He dominated a bunch of other hookers there, basically because it was all club level. So John Clark, 14 wins, 2 losses. Same record against Malcolm Alker. Johnny Lawless, 12 wins, 2 losses. Paul Rowley, 11 and 2. But there's one player on the list he never beat.
Okay, did he play?
Well, actually, there's a few on there, but the first one who he played the most games against. 7 games against them, lost all 7.
Well, does he play for Bradford?
He was a Kiwi. He played for the Warriors.
As a Kiwi? Oh, was it? He was a Kiwi. He played for the Warriors.
He never played in England.
He never played in England.
No.
So he played him 7 times in Test matches, I'm guessing.
Yep. I might have played against him also in the World Club Challenge in '97. But
97.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, this is testing me out. And he is a hooker.
Yep.
He played for the Warriors.
Played 7 tests for England. 7 tests for New Zealand.
For New Zealand.
Yep.
Okay.
Between 1995 and 1999.
95 and 99.
Oh, hang on. That was 7 tour. 18 tests.
Okay. So he's a good player.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm
I'll give you a clue here.
Okay.
Possibly the shortest name in rugby league history.
Oh, jeez.
When you add all the letters from his first name and his surname together, 6 letters.
Oh, man. I bet I'm going to kick myself when you tell me this. Who is it?
Syd Eru.
Syd Eru. Oh, would never have got that. Man, he played a lot of Test matches for New Zealand.
Yeah, he started when he was, I think his first test was when he was 19.
Man, I'm surprised by that.
He also never beat Danny Badeiras and Robbie McCormick. That was 3 games each.
What's their name? And I'm blanking on his name, the Bradford hooker. Man, okay, and he ended up being a coach. Look up the Bradford Bulls hooker during their run, their good run.
Was that Brad Drew?
No.
Bradford Bulls seasons.
I always forget his name.
We'll go with 2003. What do you reckon?
Yeah, try then.
Right. Who was the hooker here? James Lowes?
Yes, Jimmy Lowes. He was the best English hooker out of that era by a long way. I think he's the best English hooker I've ever seen.
He had 24 games against Cunningham, 10 wins, 14 losses.
He was a very good defender. Not super crafty around the ruck, but crafty enough. And he's a bit of an old school sort of hooker. I really liked his play. I thought he was. I didn't know why, but they really underrated him.
Well, I mean, they had Kieran Cunningham to fawn over.
And he was one of those Welsh guys, not born in Wales. Like Yeston Harris, not born in Wales.
Welshish.
Welshish. Welsh adjacent.
That's kind of like the Queenslanders are, really.
Yeah, pretty much. Over there, they to work out if you're eligible to play for Wales, they lock you in a room with a sheep, and they just count to 30, and if they just wait and they listen, and if they hear he's going, sweetheart, then they're like, yeah, he's eligible to play for Wales.
Oh dear. Well, look, our Kiwi fans would be happy to hear that they weren't being tagged in that one.
Yeah. No, for the Kiwi. For the Kiwis, they close the door and they wait. They count to 5. And if they hear a knock at the door and they open it and they say, whoa, put me in with me ex, bro. Then you're eligible to play for the Kiwis.
Right, fair enough. Oh dear. What else has been going on in the World Rugby League?
I think that's it. I think that we've pretty much covered everything that has happened on the Rugby League playing planet. I know that there's a meeting coming up with the all of the posers at the International Rugby League, and they're going to pretend that they have a plan for the World Cup that was cancelled.
All right.
Yeah.
Are they gonna move it to Victoria?
Who fucking knows at this point? Hey.
Well, we've freed up some cash down here by getting rid of the stupid whatever it is games they had going on down here. Commonwealth games.
The poser that is the chairman of the International Rugby League, he was blaming the Rugby League Players Association for there being no rugby league calendar.
Yeah.
Andrew, can you tell me when we've had a rugby league calendar?
Back in the 90s, they had those Men of League ones with blokes with no clothes on.
That's about as close as we've ever had for an international calendar. And this fucking idiot's blaming the Rugby League Players Association. He's blaming...
You won't free up players to play for all these other countries. They never got freed up anyway.
Well, he's blaming industrial action in one country's professional league.
But his argument, though, is all those players who are eligible for all of these countries in Europe are unable to play because of the RLPA going on. It says, because Serbia's been really waiting on the Trebojevic brothers to free themselves up and come back to play for them, given they've never done it before.
Exactly.
They're waiting for Tedesco to come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Stop making up bullshit lies and just pull your finger out and go, you know what? Here's the fucking international schedule. Boom. Abide by it.
How about he goes, you know what? I am responsible for failure. I step down.
Maybe he's trying to shore up himself a position at the Tigers.
Maybe.
We're going to have them all. We're going to have whoever that bloke is. I don't know his name. We're going to have Phil Gould over there.
Get John Rebo back.
Oh,
I feel like
need to get Sean Wayne in as coach for a while.
Sean Wayne. What about Frank Endicott?
Yep, put him in there. Holbrook can be an assistant coach. Who else can we need? We need some more Poms in there to be assistant coaches.
Yeah, there needs to be some more Pommy assistant coaches. What about Brian Noble?
Oh, he can run the water bottle, given that Farrah's going to be running the front office.
He'd be good, yeah. Yeah. It'd be another really good Pommy assistant coach to bring in. What about fucking Paul Wellens?
I was actually about to say Paul Wellens. He could be the bloke who mans the walkie-talkies and relays the message.
Yeah.
That no one will understand.
That'd be good. No one can understand. That's the worst thing anyone's ever said about someone from another country on this podcast, Andrew. You should be ashamed. I'm going to say something like that.
I'm ashamed.
Oh, shit.
Oh, just some dumb fat prick sitting in a fucking house in Melbourne. As if anyone gives a shit. Actually, I did see something here. The Dragons have reportedly allowed their halfback Jaden Sullivan permission to negotiate with rival clubs. And so someone asked, someone asked, who's going to be the new Dragons halves if Hunt wants to go as well?
Yeah.
And I said, 7, Kyle Flanagan. The whole thing's been shaped for that to happen. We've been talking about it for ages.
100%.
How's it not going to be Kyle Flanagan?
Well, the Bulldogs played Kyle Flanagan at hooker against the Panthers last week.
Yeah, it went well.
Oh, my God. The poor bastard was stuffed.
Yeah, he's never been there before.
Yeah, he was physically, you could see how tired he was. And, I'm not even mad at him because, as you say, he'd never played there before. No. It was just madness to even try it.
I don't know what the other thing that's crazy too is Hayes Perham has been getting a hell of a long run at fullback, and he's just been so poor this year. As a junior, huge raps on him as a junior, as a fullback coming through the ranks. He looked like he was going to be the straight up replacement for RTS over at the Warriors. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, just like there's a bunch of players that do it, they get to the top level, they can't quite get up to the speed there. It's just a bit too much for him.
Yeah.
And that's where Perham was at. He changed clubs a few times. I think he went to Parramatta and he played a bit on the wing and moved around in positions. He hasn't been locked into a position for a while. And I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. At the start of the year, I suggested he was going to be playing as first choice fullback for the Bulldogs, when everybody else was saying that wasn't going to happen. And he did become the first choice fullback there. And he wasn't too bad to start with, but he hasn't got better as the season's gone on. He's gone a bit backwards. And, Serrato's getting a bit sleepy on the the selection there. He needs to drop in and get AndrewRLP back in the side.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much the signing of Crichton, who they want as a fullback, how that affected him, because it must have. And I mean, we've seen Crichton at times you look at him and you think he's got everything that you need to be a good fullback, but it doesn't quite hook up for him as a fullback for whatever reason.
I am completely not sold on him as a fullback.
Yeah. I mean, he's incredible and getting better as a centre.
Yeah.
Especially defensively. He's starting to put it on other players.
I'll say this. I think Burton would make a better fullback before Crichton would, and I don't want to see Burton at fullback either.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think Burton's got more potential to make a better fist of that gig than Crichton will. Too often I've seen Crichton at fullback, and he looks worse.
It's underwhelming.
Yeah, and it seems like it impacts his form when he's at centre.
Yeah. It takes him a few weeks to get back into the swing of things, eh?
Yeah. I don't like it when Penrith put him there. I'd rather they try someone else there. I don't care who.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see, if that's to happen for the rest of this year, I don't want to see Crichton at fullback again because he's not good at it, in my view. It just doesn't work with him. Not everyone can be Latrell Mitchell.
No, and look, I can completely understand he's got all of the tools you'd want for a fullback. He's a tall dude, good ball runner, all of that stuff, but it's not his position. That's why we have positions. That's why we've got dudes that are better in some positions than other positions. So I wouldn't be convinced if I was the Bulldogs that he was the choice as fullback next year, but for how much they're paying him, they kind of have no choice.
Yeah, they've backed themselves into a corner there.
Yeah.
And, man, they're going to fuck that up big time if they put him there and he struggles. Because, I mean, then what are they going to do? Move him to the centre and then what?
Then he's $1 million a year centre. Yeah.
And then they've got to find another fullback.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm not, during the early 2000s, players could interchange between positions pretty freely and pretty easily. Because of the way the game was then. But now, because defence is so important now, and so is being an absolute master of your position, you find that there are less and less of those players who are generally capable of being NRL quality at more than one position. Like you're NRL quality at one position, and you're a stopgap option at another one every now and then, but you're not. That's not NRL quality, and only the very rare, very exceptional athletes, Latrell Mitchell, for example, are able to be fucking brilliant at more than one position. So it's not a criticism of a player who can't do it, but we still have coaches and clubs trying to get players to be able to transition into other roles.
I think
they just can't.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's driven by players themselves as well, because I can see where you're as Stephen Crichton and as a centre, and I'm completely making these numbers up, right? But just say,
hang on, aren't these numbers officially on a website?
Yeah, they're on some fucking Telegraph website. They know all the players' salaries, but they don't know them. At the same time, it's weird. But just say a representative.
So let's take the figure up there. So Crichton's on $75 million a year.
Yeah. And he drives a $2 million car. Say a rep quality centre like Crichton in the NRL is worth, say, $850,000 at tops, because normally your money is going into your skill positions in halves and your fullback and your hooker and that sort of thing. So say a player like him, $850,000. But he's looking at, he's like, I've got all the tools to be a fullback. I kind of want to play fullback. I think I'm a better athlete than the current fullback. And I'm not talking about Stephen Crichton. I'm just saying a Crichton-like player. And he just pesters the coach. Like, let me have a go at fullback. Come on, I'm a super athlete. And so I think sometimes it's driven by the players. And I think it's difficult when a player isn't that thing, when they're so good. How do you address that with a star player who's obviously agitated in that position that they're in and that they're good at? How do you massage that situation where you say, I know what you want, but and I know that it's going to make you worth less, but this is what you actually are. You're not this other thing. I don't know how you'd address that. It'd be difficult.
I think there's a large element of that. I also wonder too of some players who have been at a club like Penrith and been really successful. You tend to see them going to weaker clubs, and they always pedal out the same line of, I want to, help reshape this club and get them back being successful again. But I reckon what it is they're sick of being absolutely punished at training and being forced to be elite every season, and they just go, I just need a break. So let's just go to the club where we know they're not being flogged as much because the results show it. I'll just go to the Dogs. I'll just go to the Tigers. I'll just go to the Dragons, just for 2 or 3 years, and then I'll come back.
Well, I wonder if, obviously money plays a big part of it. And I was watching Matt Burton on the weekend, and, he's playing across from his friends, dudes he's grown up with, and in a team he was in and won a premiership with. And they just kept rolling along. And he's there at the Bulldogs and second last on the ladder. And he no doubt would say I'd make the same decision because he's on big money. Like, that's his role as a professional sportsman. But there must have been some part of him that looked across that field and thought, man, like, I could have been part of that.
Yeah. Now he's the last kid at camp packing all the tents up while everyone else is on the bus.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. But then you look at someone like an Appy Coruscant who's gone to the West Tigers, and even as terrible as they are, he's been friggin' sensational this year.
Yeah, although I think it's a little bit different with Appy because he wasn't part of that group of players that were all coming through together that Burton was with.
True.
Andy is older than them all, so he's thinking more about, I need to be looking at getting the best big, juicy contract, last one that I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he's not one of those players that comes to the club and just tarmos it. He turns up to play.
Tarmos.
Well, Tamo was a classic example of it.
He was. He really
just turned up and just rolled through, dawdled about. Oh, I'm the captain, and then every now and then just has some fucking brace up and does nothing, captain-like at all. Actually, that's something I realised. Apparently, Nico Hines got the shits with the referee the other day.
I didn't see it. I must have missed it. But, yeah, apparently he did. Like, I don't know what happened. Do you know what happened?
No, Mrs. has been watching it because she's a Sharks fan.
Yeah.
And I heard the video being played on YouTube the other day, and all I heard was the referee yelling at him, "Nico, don't walk away from me."
Yeah.
And Nico was looking pretty pissed off. So I think it was over a try by the Sharks that was disallowed due to a forward pass or some shit like that. I can't remember what it was. It was probably a little bit controversial. As I said, I haven't seen it. Yeah. But as it turned out, that could have been the try that, cost them the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So everyone's emotions are running a bit high there. So I think that's what it is. I'll have to have a look and check it out.
I've got a question. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
No, I was going to
say, I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the grand final.
Sorry?
You're in the grand final. Sorry, I know. We're in a fantasy land right now. Okay?
Oh, right.
And your team, they're good.
Sorry. You fucking lost me.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else. Okay, here's a question.
I can only be creative to a certain degree. You're asking me to be creative on top of being creative. It's just too many layers.
Okay. Somebody else's team is in the grand final, right?
Okay, I'll work with this. Yep. Canberra.
No. You have to face one of your opponents to win the match.
Mm-hmm.
Canberra or Cronulla? Who would you least rather play against?
Cronulla.
I'm the same. I agree.
Because despite their defensive woes that they have, their fucking attack is killing everyone. I mean, we saw it. They were being pounded by Manly there.
Mm.
And yet in the second half, they've kept Manly to one try and they've almost won the game. They've almost, mashed them 30 points in 40 minutes. Not many clubs are able to have a massive turnaround like that in 40 minutes against generally competitive sides. So that's the thing. I don't feel that with Canberra. Canberra are higher on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Canberra's just one of those teams that I don't know. There's an air of Flanagan coach Shark sides about them, where they're just doing a lot of shit in the forwards and just grinding through games. Remember back in 2016, 17, 18 even, the Raiders were just this attacking force that when they were on, they just decimated sides. I don't think they know how to do that anymore. But they know how to keep rolling through the middle and get their forwards on a bit of a roll and keep going. And that's 90% of what's getting them through games. Nothing wrong with that. You're winning. Mm-hmm. The problem they're going to get, though, is when they do need to score points, it seems to be a bit more of a challenge for them.
See, the way I look at it, like the Sharks are the most middle-of-the-road team in the NRL in just every way. And I think that's why you see they don't beat top 8 sides because they're just middle of the road, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, they've never worried me. I think I've said in the last two season previews, they just don't worry me at all because of that. Whereas the Raiders, I think the Sharks are going to give you an okay game, but I think you're pretty confident of beating them. The Raiders, I think will not win. That's the way I look at both those teams. Like, I look at the Raiders and just see a fucking house of cards that is so ready to fall on itself as soon as.
Well, that's the thing. Like with the Sharks, you know that their attack will not stop trying, and you know it's got points in it.
Yeah.
So you have to keep your defence on its game. So that's the reason why they struggle against the top 8 sides. It's not a lack of ability to score points. It's the fact that the opposition team's defence will not relent, will not let them in as easily. And so they start to get frustrated. And a frustrated side will leak points, and that's their problem. Plus, they don't seem to be as versatile defensively as I'd say the top 5 or 6 teams anyway. So that's where they struggle. So, if you take, for example, Penrith for a good example, if they see a different type of attack coming at them and different shapes coming at them, they can change their defensive structure to immediately shut it down. Whereas the Sharks struggle with that change. They've got one set defensive type, and that's what they stick with. And if you find a way through it, which is usually just going down their left side, you will find a hole out there. And that's because, for whatever reason, they decided to start pairing up Wade Graham next to Moylan. I think it was more to try and get Graham to help Moylan defensively, but Graham's lateral movement is nowhere near where it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's what's hurting him. So he's able to cover Moylan, but he's not able to cover his own spot as well on the outside shoulder. And that's where the holes are coming. So they need to put someone other than Wade Graham there. Wade Graham's in a situation at the moment where he's going to start getting absolutely ridden out of town the same way Blake Ashford did. And Ashford got ridden out. And there's people are going to be thinking I'm being crazy here. You go back and watch some of the footage of when Ashford was in the defensive line for the Sharks. And the whole time he was covering Todd Carney. Because Carney would just smash out of the fucking line. He'd just belt off somewhere like David Nofaluma. Boom, he's off. And you go, where the fuck did he go? And all of a sudden, Ashford's there trying to defend inside, hold his position on the outside, and not make his winger come in and lose position there. And no player can do all of that.
Yeah.
And so often, because Carney's gone, and the hole is next to Ashford, and Ashford's the last one on screen trying to make a tackle, and he's trying to defend 2 people at once, he's the one everyone shits on, and he's the one everyone hates. And that's the thing that always frustrated me about some fans, is that was so easy to see, but they're not seeing it. They just see that Ashford missed the tackle. It's all fucking his fault. And going, Carney's the one at fault. Where the fuck is he?
Yeah.
And you're seeing bits of it now creeping in with Moylan running out of the line. Like, where the fuck is he going?
Yeah. Well, it's like when you watch the Raiders and Crocker is so bad defensively, it's really hard to miss it. Like, even for someone that doesn't watch too much rugby league, you can see what he's doing is wrong. But it's like watching that and then saying, well, why are the players around him missing so many tackles and look like they don't know what they're doing? And it's like, because they don't know what he's doing and they've got to react to him and then what the attack is doing, and they're scrambling themselves and they're making
them flat-footed.
Yeah, and they're making the best of a horrible situation. It makes them look really bad.
There's another player who's approaching that realm very rapidly.
Who?
Wonga Blake.
I saw people blowing up.
Oh, mate, his game on the weekend was dog shit.
Really?
Oh, bad.
I only had half an eye on some of the footy this weekend.
Yeah. You probably should have shut that half eye when Wonga Blake was around, because, man, he was shit.
Really?
Bad game. Just not in position in attack. He was being toyed with so much in defence. He was bad. But it's okay, because Brad Arthur's picked him again this week. Who are they playing? Oh, it's only Melbourne.
Jeez. He's such a weird player, because, like, at times, I know when he played for Penrith, there'd be games where you'd watch him and you'd be like, this guy's a beast. Like,
yeah.
When he was in form for Penrith, and it was only a game, the problem was it would be like a game in round 4 and then maybe a game in round 17, and that was it. But when in those games, he looked like Greg Inglis.
Yeah.
And that's what you hoped for. You hoped that whatever it was that let him produce that would click in all the time. And it just didn't. And he's got all the tools.
Yeah, they're trying to hide him on the wing now, and it's just he's being exposed a lot more easily now. Because sometimes a lot of the times in this on the game last weekend, he was way up out of the line early and in field. And so they just ran towards him, and he was just standing in no man's land. And they're like, what are you going to do now? You're now flat-footed and not running at anyone. Oh, my God.
I actually get excited watching the Canberra games to see how bad Crocker can be defensively. And it excites me. It's like watching a horse at a horse race that you put money on. It's like, he's behind the attacking line. It's like, how bad can it be? He's exceeding my expectations. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's why I like Nofaluma, mate. He's shit, but in all different ways. So instead of just seeing the same mistake every time, you're seeing a different one every time. They're all wrong. Every decision is wrong, and they're all bad, but he makes all of them. Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's kind of like playing poker, and you're trying to figure out whether which hand's going to be bigger than the one you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for this one, it's which player's Nofaluma got that's going to be shittier than the other one. What can he possibly do to ruin this? Oh, I wasn't thinking of that. It's impressive. Give that bloke another year.
It's like you put down a straight, and then he says, "All my cards are red." It's like, that's not a hand.
Hang on, you've coloured one in with crayon.
It's like, oh man, yeah. It's crazy. The thing I don't understand, it's an instinct thing, and that's why it's so hard to get it out of a player. But there's got to be a point where you say, we can never get this out of this guy.
Yeah.
And so let's let him be someone else's problem.
Yeah, it comes after about 11 years.
Well, that's the thing. You don't need 302 games to work it out. And then, when Canberra, and I can't even remember who they were playing on the weekend. Oh, it was the fucking Warriors.
Mm.
And they're coming back, and 2 kicks missed. And either one of them would have given them the win in that game. And just a classic choke job, just a fucking classic grade A choke job. Yeah. And poor fucking Raiders fans, I see them on my timeline. The thing that got me was the 301st game. They were all like, he got his 300, that's got to be it.
Yeah, we're done with this ceremony. We can move on now.
Yeah. They were out at that point.
So how much do you think the Tigers will offer him?
What if next year Crocker, right? Because you need a goal kicker, and then your edge defense is Matt Moreland and Wade Graham, and in the halves you have Caesar and fucking what's his name? What's the Salford halfback's name again?
That fella, that was the Storm.
Yeah.
Who cares what his name is? You put him in there. Was it Blake?
No, not Blake. What's his name? Oh man, we were talking about him earlier.
He's so irrelevant.
Yeah. Anyway, that guy, and then you fucking. Can we get Tamo back? Just one for the road.
He'd do it.
Yeah.
He's barely done anything this year. He'd do it.
He'd have fresh legs.
just ride for one more year.
I tell you what, you could take Eisenhuth from the Panthers. He's a plotter. I could just see them saying he brings in premiership experience.
That's what you want. You want that premiership experience. Brody Croft.
We were talking about him earlier. How did we forget his name already?
Good old Brody Croft.
Hayden Caesar's the one that kills me, man.
I'll take Caesar over Croft. But jeez. Oh, shit, yeah.
I think I'd take Croft.
No. I'll tell you why. Caesar can at least kick goals. That's it.
True.
That's it.
The thing that gets me is, imagine being Benji Marshall, right? And Tim Sheen says, I'm gonna groom you, Benji, and I'm gonna give you a good team. They're not gonna be terrible. They're gonna be terrible when I've got them, but mate, I'm setting them up for you. And then he signs, like, your longest signed players are all fucking over 30. But then he wants to leave him with fucking Aiden Caesar going into 35.
Well, let's have a look at who the most kept halfbacks are over in England.
Okay.
And you tell me which one you think would actually be a legitimately good signing for the Tigers if he's going to sign someone from England.
Oh, none of them.
Lachlan Lamb?
Nah.
Jacob Miller?
No.
Miller's 30.
Jesus.
Harry Smith?
No.
Mark Snyde?
No.
Lewis Dodd?
Fuck no.
Jake Clifford?
Jake, you know what? I would take a punt on Jake Clifford, actually.
Josh Drinkwater?
No.
Mason Leno?
No.
Caesar?
Definitely not.
And who's number 10 here? Jordan Abdul?
No.
There's also Theo Farge from Huddersfield. And Tui Lolohea also at Huddersfield. We've already done the Lolohea once, so you can't have that one.
No.
Sam Tompkins at Catalan, he's only 34. Mitchell Pearce is 34.
Sam Tompkins is retiring at the end of the year, unfortunately.
Tyrone May, he's a sprightly 27.
Man, it's weird to think he's only 27.
Luke Gale, man, he's 35. Where does the years go?
Well, it's because you get these English players and like they play like Luke Brooks has played his career, where you wait for them to take a step forward and they never do. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he's 35 now.
Yes. Let's see. Gareth Widdop.
Oh man, is he even playing still?
He's at Castleford now.
Oh man.
Johnny Lomax.
Fuck no.
Lee Gaskell.
No.
Blake Austin.
Blake Austin's still playing. How old is he? 35?
32.
He's only 32.
Yeah, mate. Mikey Lewis.
Who's that?
Mikey Lewis.
Nah.
Young fella at Hull KR. Ben Reynolds at Lee.
Ben Reynolds?
Yeah, 29. George Williams is only 28. Geez, he'd be good. He should try in England.
Oh, you know what? Oh, man. If he wasn't such a fucking northern townie who needs to be near a fucking pub and, you know, have roads that you got to grit in winter, he'd be somebody that fucking Tim Sheens would want, hey?
Well, he's got a pub next to Campbelltown.
True.
That could work.
I
just have to put the ice machine just has to go on the field every now and then.
Yeah, they send a Zamboni out there.
Just to make you feel at home.
Because when he went back with fucking Casper, when the both of them went back to fucking their little towns, and then Casper's come back now, I just can't imagine he's going to come back too. But if he was available, I think that Tim Sheens would sign him for sure.
I'm pretty sure every single name I mentioned there, Sheens has already sent a contract offer out to.
Fucking Aiden Caesar, man.
Yeah. There we go. You watch now from now to the end of the year, the Tigers are going to be linked to every single player that's on the market, and they'll sign absolutely none of them.
But the thing is, at least you know they'll start looking at who to sign for next year in about November.
Sometime around next year.
Yeah.
We'll know who they're looking at because they'll be the only players not signed in January. There'll be no one pushing his price up now. We'll get him on the cheap. Player says, I want 450. He said, well, how about we give you 600?
What if
deal?
What if Hodgson, right, doesn't get his medical retirement?
Oh, you're killing me now.
Oh shit!
Fucking no. Yeah, that's bad.
The rotten thing is they're going to sign some of these players we're talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which sucks.
they've already been told by the media that these two young blokes from Manly are absolute superstars, and they got the Tigers to sign them. They probably won't play any first grade now. I don't even know who they are. So, they've made big inroads.
As long as no matter what happens, Scott Fulton needs to keep his job. He's the linchpin of the club. He's been there for 4.5 weeks now. Can't get rid of him.
Well, they probably signed him on a 27-year deal.
Probably.
Yeah, so, lock him in. And every time that club makes one step forward, they make 345,000 steps backwards. It's hard work.
It was just the most surreal shit in the world to be sitting there eating a fucking chicken schnitzel with you and looking up over your shoulder and just seeing your club falling apart.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I just do what everybody else would do in that situation and just keep eating. You're so, what am I going to do? You just got to sit there and have your schnitty.
Yeah.
That's about it.
They were good schnitzels too.
Oh, shit, yeah. They were amazing.
Damn, that was so good. I've been thinking about that bloody thing like every day since.
So was my boy. He's just eating it off his mum's plate.
Yeah, it was funny how he was all right. He was all right. He was a bit cranky during the day, I could say that. But then he just got to the point and the switch was off and he was like, this night is over.
Yep. We're fucking done.
Yeah, it was so funny.
And we put him in the car and by the time we backed out of the car park, he was asleep.
Oh, that's so cute.
Just conks out. Boom, done. But speaking of the little fella's mum.
Yeah.
Mrs. had her birthday today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Happy 29th birthday.
Yeah. What did you get her?
What I did get so far,
yeah,
was a treat that it was one of those things that when we were kids,
yeah,
it was like the treat that you got maybe once or twice in your entire childhood, or when you did something like really amazing.
Yeah,
Viennetta.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I've never bought one as an adult. So this is the first time I bought one as an adult. I went, we'll get her this for a birthday, just for something to do. Why not? And because it's a bit old school, she kind of likes weird, funny little things like that, especially when they're random and unexpected. So I went, I'll get that.
Yeah.
So I said, and we don't really have dessert here.
Yeah.
So I said to her after our dinner, I went, I've got dessert for you. She went, oh, what'd you get? And I just held up the box. She goes, oh! Brownie points earned.
Excellent. That's awesome. Do they still taste as good?
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Oh, nice. I remember when I was a teenager and I started with the money I had and I started thinking like, I could buy a kilo of chocolate, and one of the things I started buying was Viennettas, and I used to smash them. It was so good.
You know what I was thinking about as I was having a bit of Viennetta today is how when we were kids, there was like 3 different types of toothpaste.
Yeah.
And now there's 5 million types.
Yeah.
Viennetta's just gone, nah, this is it. Fuck every other flavour. This is all we need. And they're right.
Yeah, they are.
There's never been a variation. It's always just been vanilla ice cream with chocolate. That's it.
It's Via and Netta.
That's it. The box hasn't changed. The wrapping hasn't changed. It still comes on the brown tray.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. They're just gone, we know we've done perfect. Just copy and paste that shit.
Yeah. Do they still have the chocolate ones?
Yeah, that's all. That's all there is now. It's just vanilla ice cream with chocolate in the middle.
No, but remember they had the ones with the chocolate in the middle and the chocolate ice cream as well.
I never saw that.
Oh, okay, yeah, they used to have them.
Well, you just blown my whole theory out of the water. I never knew they did that. I thought they only ever had vanilla with chocolate.
No, I'm almost certain.
Mate, maybe this is just a Penrith thing that they did.
Yeah, it's a special Penrith. We had the first Krispy Kreme in Australia.
Yes, that's true. You did.
I don't know if we still are, but we used to be a test market for KFC. And so when they brought in the double, that's where they first brought it in. And that you'd be able to get the double for about 2 or 3 weeks before they started advertising it was available elsewhere. And I remember once I was watching what I was eating, right? And I did the sums and worked out the calories on 2 doubles versus eating healthy, and it wasn't that big a difference. So I remember there was one week and I must have eaten I'm not even joking, like 12 doubles.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just every day, two. So good.
That doesn't sound like a right idea.
No, I'll probably die of a heart attack pretty soon, but I would have friends that would message me and say it's about to start. Because they knew. Well, they'd get angry at me because then when it was being advertised on TV, they'd be like, "You didn't tell me they were selling them already." Like, man, you snooze, you lose.
That's right. If I told you come eat them all.
Exactly.
I've got to get through these things. Well, it's been a pretty sizable episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on the socials. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace. Still waiting.
We're on X.
X. Oh yeah, we're on X.
Yeah.
There's no more Twitter anymore. We're just on X.
Do yourself a favour. Sit next to your significant other, fucking around on your phone, and then when they say, "Oh, what you up to?" Smiling a lot. Say, "I'm just Xing." See how it goes.
That's what it is. I'm just sending a video on X.
Yeah. Just checking out videos on X.
Yeah.
Should see it. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you get a chance, do a Google search for X videos. Nothing bad will happen.
Search. It's bookmarked.
Lock that shit in. Yeah, actually, I had a little rugby league project update.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 4 seasons left to go in the New South Wales Rugby League, so the precursor to the NRL.
Wow.
1970 to 1973. That's all that's left to do on there. That's appearances for every game.
Mm-hmm.
So we should have that done by the end of the year with any luck. That's our plan.
Yeah.
We've also created during the week a ladder predictor.
Oh, cool.
You can go check that out as well. And while you're chucking stuff out, you can also go to our Patreon and give us some cash on there. That'd be sweet.
Yep. Have you've got different tiers on yours, don't you?
Nope.
Oh, you're just a flat rate. Oh, yours isn't a flat rate. Yours is however much.
You pay whatever you want, and it's largely because I couldn't be bothered going on there and spending time trying to learn how stuff works, so I just leave it. That's pretty much it. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much all there is. Please, people, now that you know that Rugby League Project has a Patreon, we haven't mentioned this for a while. LeagueFreak also has a Patreon.
Yes.
There you go. So now you know where to go to get that as well.
Go to Patreon, you fucks.
Yeah, come on. We do everything for you.
Yours is
RL Project.
RL Project, that's it.
Yes.
Mine's LeagueFreak, no spaces.
There you go. Check us out. Throw a few coins. You don't have to sit there and give us millions unless you want to, but you know, the Rugby League Project one can be as little as just $1 a month.
Yeah, I think my one's set up with tiers, and at different tiers you get merch after a couple of months of being on there. So you just go and check it out, and I think there's one with a sticker. I think one has a T-shirt, one has a mug. I think one might have a hat as well. But you can also do the basic one, which is just, man, I just want to chuck something into the kitty. Yeah. And it all goes towards our costs, you know.
And that's tiers as in TIERS, not tiers like the things that Piers Morgan has been sprouting because, you know, Australia beat England in the Ashes with rules.
People are dumb. That guy that's his fucking business model is to be an arsehole, and people feed into his arseholery.
He's just an absolute whinging dick.
Yeah.
It's fucking funny though. He's fucking sooking. Oh, look at Australia won. Imagine what they did to bloody Bairstow. They got him out by stumping, which was legal.
Yeah.
What's your fucking problem? Grow up, you stupid cunt. Man, I've been dropping the C word a bit more than you have.
Yeah, what's going on?
Must be the footy.
Yeah. I think you know what it is? I'm a bad influence on you. I finally, we have a schnitzel together and all of a sudden, I'm starting to influence you.
Yeah. Next year we bring out the history episodes. I'll be sitting there going, tell me more.
Yeah. I won't be good with the history episodes though, because I'll be like, oh, this guy, I can't remember his name. He's doing this thing. Can't remember what it was.
Let's call it.
What's that?
Let's just call him Brodie Croft.
Yeah. We're going to talk about history. We'll talk about Aiden Caesar's career.
Oh, boy. Yeah. It's not going to mean anything unless he goes to the Tigers.
True. So come back.
Yes. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Actually, the other thing, we're also on Threads. Yes. I don't know what that is, but we're on there. So check us out there as well. And we'll catch you all next time.